How was the workload while you were pursuing?
Yeah, I mean, like everyone else, I actually found chemical engineering hard, especially during my early years in University of Melbourne.
Mhm.
One was, because of the location, it's a new environment. It's also, you start studying a degree for this, you were normally on elementary school level kind of education.
Mhm.
Um, so to me, it was I was actually I was actually struggling at the start of it, and mainly it was because of the mindset. I would say one of the things that you during your secondary kind of education, um, in a way you are institutionalized by the system whereby it's all about focusing, on getting good grades. You want to get 100, you want to be able to excel in that. But we don't focus much on really understanding something.
Mhm.
If you get 100 in an exam, you're happy, but you don't realize whether you actually understand the knowledge or not.
Mhm. Mhm.
When I started changing my mindset, I think that was how I really started seeing chemical engineering in a different way, and that really helped me try to accelerate and start to understand and excel better in chemical engineering.
Mhm.
And in terms of workload, there was actually a lot. I did not think it was that much. It came from assignments, tutorials, you had plant design projects, at the same time you had lab work. Balancing all of that was really critical. And the key was in proper time management.
Mhm.
I normally have had an organizer to actually track all of the workload that I had and the due dates. And being able to be on top of everything was really critical to make sure that I meet all the deadlines and
Mhm.
prevent unnecessary stress. At the same time, because you want to balance your life as well. So it's normally about staying on top of everything,
Mhm.
but not ruining your Friday nights.
Exactly. So there's a good idea not to put everything till the night before you have a final deadline. Uh,
Yeah.
but thank you for saying that, and I fully agree. It's much more better. It's much more beneficial to understand the concept than to just memorize a bunch of formulas and then going for the exam and passing the exam. Sometimes you can get 100% of the exam and still not know anything about it.
Yeah.
So I fully agree with what you just said. But then, like you said, time management is very important, of course, when you are at a university, especially when you are pursuing a very complex degree as this one. But how would your normal work week look like? Like how would you generally plan it, for example?
Yeah. So normally during my university days, we had quite a flexible schedule. So meaning at the start of the semester, all the classes come up, you know
Mhm.
what the course, what subjects you'll be taking for that semester.
Mhm.
So you had the opportunity to register yourself in certain classes. So what I
Mhm.
normally do, I like to try to focus my classes on 3 days of the week. I try
Okay.
to arrange it so that I focus 3 days. It'll be a bit packed, maybe morning till afternoon. I'll have all my classes 3 days of the week.
Mhm.
But I try to focus on those days. So what I would do is I'd schedule my classes in the morning, if possible, and my tutorials in the afternoon. I focus during that time. So 3 days of the week, I'd go to classes, followed by tutorials. Whatever assignment that I have, I try to stay back. Normally,
Mhm.
on the days I already dedicate to spend on my studies, I stay back at the library or the engineering lab, and try to finish them off. Whatever
Mhm.
that I can start on or get it done, I try to get it done.
Mhm.
So then during my off days, I can try to actually balance a bit.
Mhm.
One thing was, being somebody who studied overseas, right? So it's not it's not your country. It's something new, and being somebody who loves to explore, I also try to balance my time in terms of that.
Mhm.
So you focus in a way, you study hard, you also play hard. So you
Exactly.
still balance, yeah.
Mhm.
But yeah, I always schedule my days like that. So the days that I already prepared to focus on my studies, I just spend
Mhm.
and try to take everything done on those days.
Okay, amazing. That sounds like a very good plan, and thank you for sharing that with us. But even though you can do everything you can, but chemical engineering, there are some topics that everyone finds difficult, and you can put in so many hours in trying to learn it. In your experience, was there any topic that you felt was very difficult?
Yeah, I think maybe this is some one topic that everybody might be having the same trouble with, which was thermodynamics.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the idea it went back to how I was thinking about it. I remember my first lecture in thermodynamics. Our lecturer actually said to us, look at the person on your left and look at the person on your right. Only one of you is gonna make it for this. So the passing rate was what, 30%.
Mhm.
And the problem with that was it's always about looking back again, looking at equations, trying to
Mhm.
memorize all of that equation and just trying to get it right.
Mhm.
When in reality it's a lot more than that.
Exactly. I mean, I fully agree. Thermodynamics, that is one of the hardest topics to pass through, regardless of what country you are in. Uh, but that would be interesting to know then, for example, if the people that are watching, the students or the graduates, and what tips would you have for them to actually, what would make it easier for them to go through thermo topics like thermodynamics? What helped you pass the course?
Yeah. So what I did was I was trying, what really helped me in understanding thermodynamic, one was changing the mindset. It was not about trying to memorize, all of the thermodynamic equation and just being able to answer tutorial questions or past year questions. It was going back to a lot of tedious. It does take time, but nowadays YouTube is a really helpful tool. People are teaching concepts in really, really easy kind of ways. I
Mhm.
remember back then I was using it, it might not be as
Mhm.
as advanced nowadays, but one website that was available was Khan Academy. I remember during that time.
Ah, yes. Mhm.
Yeah, that was one way he was really
Mhm.
teaching things in simple terms. And then it was a lot of looking up, going to find reference books that
Mhm.
really teaches the application of thermodynamics. What I realized was when I was able to understand how thermodynamics was being applied in the real world, that started to accelerate my understanding. It was no longer about just memorizing equation, but
Mhm.
understanding the concept of it. And when it came to exams later on, even though the questions were not even related to whatever were in the notes, but when you understood the concept,
Mhm.
first off, thermodynamics, how is it actually being applied? And
Mhm.
you were able to even answer any types of questions. And you realize it really does help, especially when you go into the industry later on.
Mhm. Well, that's very amazing, and that's a very nice, very wise advice. That and I second what you said. Understanding the concept is the most fundamental thing that you can do when you are when you are facing any difficulty in any course. So yes, thank you.